And now I'm going to introduce Nikki, our president of Scituate Pride, and I will let her take it away.
Thank you, Jackie, and thanks for the awesome music. Happy Pride, everyone. It's my favorite time of the year, and I hope it's yours too. We have a lot going on, including the Straight Talk tonight. Straight Talk's kind of a play on words, so it's not a focus on straight people, but we thought it was kind of cute. And our theme this year for Pride, if you haven't been watching, is Drag Out the Hate, which is also another little play on words. Tonight we are recording, and if you would like closed captioning and you don't see it, there should be a button at the bottom of your screen that you can press to turn it off or on. So that's totally up to you. So let's get started. First, we'd like to thank a whole bunch of people that were a part of making this happen, including Hull Pride, Cohasset Pride Project, Hingham Pride Project, Ruth Thompson, Alexa Anthony Houghton, and Weymouth Pride. This isn't the entire list, but it is a strong list of people that have been very supportive and helpful as we plan this celebration, and particularly this Straight Talk. So thank you. Next slide. Okay, so housekeeping. This is the way we're gonna go through the Straight Talk tonight. We're gonna do some housekeeping, and then we'll do panelist intros, and then we'll have a Q&A session. So I will lead you through all of it, as well as Jackie, and then we'll get into the panelists. Number one, housekeeping. What is Scituate Pride? Scituate Pride is an all-volunteer run organization created by and for Scituate LGBTQIA individuals and allies. We promote awareness and visibility, and we directly address issues such as bullying, marginalization, and suicide. We have an inclusive socioeconomic environment, and to learn more about us and all the things that we do, including our past Straight Talks, you can find us at info@scituatepride.com, Facebook, Scituate Pride MA, Instagram at Scituate Pride MA, and our website, www.scituatepride.com. Our mission is to inspire, support, and make visible a thriving LGBTQIA community in Scituate. We aim to elevate inclusivity, equity, and awareness, and celebrate the lives of our LGBTQIA+ community members. We foster values that strengthen connections excuse me, and belonging among LGBTQIA people, while advocating and educating to build a strong alliance with the greater Scituate community. Scituate Pride is welcoming to all people, including allies and families of our LGBTQIA+ community. What is Straight Talk? So if you've never been, for us it's a series of quarterly talks where we talk about queerness. We have a panel from Scituate, and today from the South Shore area, and every member is from the LGBTQIA+ community and are members of the South Shore and Scituate community. For all allies and LGBTQIA+ friends. We're changing the dialogue in Scituate and offering support and visibility to those who need it. Our previous Straight Talks were on gender and identity, queer parents and parents of queer kids, and our very first one was I'm Coming Out, and Diana Ross let us in with that one. That was fun. If you love what Scituate Pride is about, donate today, get involved, and join our mailing list, all in one convenient location at scituatepride.com/join us, and donate at scituatepride.com/donate. We have a lot of events going on, so hopefully you will check our website and join us or volunteer for any of the events going forward. We have a QR code if you want to click that. So happy Pride Month. This month we are celebrating just about everything queer. And as our past, as well as our present and our future as queer people, and the rich community that we have amongst ourselves and also amongst our families and our friends and our allies. So welcome and enjoy the Straight Talk. We have an open mic on June 12th at 6:30 p.m. Yeah, tomorrow night. So, no, it's not. It's Saturday.
Saturday night.
Saturday night. Thanks, Dina. Sorry. Yeah. And then we have a drive-in movie at 8 o'clock on the 18th, Kinky Boots. And this is the Broadway musical cast. So it's pretty exciting and a very big deal that the South Shore is bringing this movie to you during Pride Month. And that will be at the Gates Middle School parking lot. We have a guest speaker on the 22nd at 7 p.m. Getting By, Bisexually 101. That will be at the First Trinitarian Congregational Church, UCC, with special guest Robin Oakes. And we wrap things up on the 26th with a Pride Walk, which will start at Scituate Town Hall at 10 a.m. So please come early if you want to get your banners and Pride gear set up. We will have sign making in June on the 20th and the 23rd, Peggotty Beach, and then 6 p.m. somewhere else. So join us and visit the website again for ticket purchase.
All right, so at this point, I'm going to take over from Nikki. Nikki, thank you so much for telling everyone about our group and getting us ready for Pride. I'm very excited. So Nikki was talking a little bit about Pride and our Pride Month in Scituate, our first ever big Pride Month that we've organized. And the theme of this month is Drag Out the Hate. And we chose that because there's been a lot of change going on in our community. And we wanted to do a little play on words with the term drag, which I think a lot of people is like their first introduction to what Pride is all about. So I'll talk a little bit about drag. I'll talk a little bit about the history of Pride Month. But first, I'm just going to start off with setting up a base for us. So if you're new and you're wondering what the heck does LGBTQIA+ even stand for, we have all the acronym all laid out here. So the only ones I really want to just call attention to, if you're unfamiliar, are the QIA, right? So Q is queer or questioning, I stands for intersex, and the A is asexual or aromantic. And the plus is, pretty much any identity that is not included specifically in the letters. So that's why we use the plus, is because this is not an exhaustive list, and we learn about new things every day. You're gonna hear about a new identity that I learned about today from one of our panelists. So that's why we have the plus, because this is always changing. But yeah, I want to jump right in and talk about why we are talking about drag as our theme, because I think for a lot of people, this is when they first learn about gay people, right? Maybe you go to a drag brunch, maybe you've heard of RuPaul, maybe you went to P-Town and you ran into a drag queen on the street and you're like, whoa, what's going on? And then they talk to you and this happened to my dentist. My dentist was like, yeah, we met a drag queen on the street and she told us all about her life. And so a lot of people know about drag. So I included a range of representation in pop culture starting in 1990. So in 1990 was a really prolific documentary, Paris is Burning, which featured a lot of drag queens and kind of is the introduction to a New York City queer subculture that is featured in the new TV show Pose, which I've included as well. And all of these shows are like fantastic. You should definitely check them out. Pose is on Netflix. Is on YouTube. I love this one. These drag queens were stars on RuPaul's Drag Race, which was a really historic show that featured drag queens, and it's still on now. So I think a lot of people are probably familiar with these things, but if you are not, or you want to know what drag really is, drag is a term that refers to a type of entertainment where people dress up and perform, often in highly stylized ways. So drag has been used for a long time, since the 1800s, when it was first used in British theater slang. And at that time, it was used to refer to masculine identified people wearing stereotypically feminine clothing. And since then, it has become associated with the LGBTQIA plus community. And it can mean not just, men and masculine identifying people who dress up in a feminine way, but it can also mean pretty much anybody who participates in, an exaggerated and stylized presentation of gender. So typically we hear about drag queens, masculine identifying people who dress up in exaggeratedly feminine ways, but there are also drag kings who are kind of the vice versa of that. But you don't have to be a masculine identifying person to be a drag queen. And you don't have to be a feminine identifying person to be a drag king. It's really up to your own interpretation, and that is the beauty of being queer and being part of the LGBTQIA plus community, is that these terms are changing, the perception is changing, the vocabulary is changing. It's always different. And the reason I'm talking about drag and why drag is so important to Pride is because drag queens, the people we might characterize as drag queens, are the people who are largely responsible for the creation of Pride Month. So I want to talk a little bit about what Pride Month is all about, why it's important, why we celebrate it, where it came from, and then talk about how Pride came about. So talking about Pride, I think something that is really important that sometimes we lose when we have a basic understanding of Pride is that not only is Pride a celebration, right? Pride can be a party, there's parades, it's really fun, everyone gets dressed up, there's drinking, you go out, it's awesome, we have lots of fun, we all love Pride. But the other part of Pride is that it's also a protest, and that's how it started. So that also means that there's marches, there's protests, and it's also a time of mourning as we remember people that we lost to the AIDS and HIV crisis. So I just want to really make sure people understand that these two ideas are not mutually exclusive. We can hold the idea of celebrating queer pride and mourning the loss of our queer friends at the same time. And that's a really important part of Pride. Community organizing and protests go hand in hand with Pride parades. And yeah, these things are not one or the other. We understand it all in context. Yeah, and so the first Pride parade happened in 1970. So Pride has been around for a long time. And it started in New York City, though, if you research, obviously there's room for lots of different ideas here. And there were other Pride-like celebrations that were going on in cities around the world. I think the Christopher Street Liberation Day, as it was called, was modeled largely after different marches that were happening in, I think, Philadelphia, which is a really historically queer-friendly city. And the first Pride Parade was organized by a lot of different groups, including the Mattagine Society, the Gay Activists Alliance, and the Gay Liberation Front. So there were lots of different groups that were radical, that were a little bit more conservative, and they were all working together for this common cause of gay liberation. And the most important part of Pride is that about this very first Pride March is that it commemorated the Stonewall riots of 1969. And I think some people have heard about the Stonewall riots, and I think in school we're starting to learn a little bit more, but tonight I just want to give everybody a little bit more of an in-depth idea. And just as a caveat, I'm definitely not a professional. I don't know everything. I'm not a historian. I've learned a lot about Pride in the last couple of years, being exposed to other queer people and reading and listening to podcasts. And there's so many awesome resources out there about Pride. But some of the basics, are just talking about Stonewall, what it was, and the response, like the aftermath of the riots and who was responsible. I'm going to pause for 1 second and make sure that there's no one missing from our group that needs to be admitted. I don't think anyone does, but I was just wanting to check.
Michael might need to be unmuted.
Unmuted?
Yeah.
Oh,
Having trouble.
who needs to be unmuted?
Michael.
Oh, Michael, hi. Michael, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Well, he wants. Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Okay, cool. I'll just go pretty quickly through this so we can get to our panelists who I really want to focus on. But the Stonewall riots they happened in 1969 in June, which is why we have Pride Month in June. And the history around Stonewall is that, you know, gay people at the time, queer people at the time, they weren't allowed to go to other bars, right? Bars that served queer people were not allowed to serve alcohol. And so the whole, and homosexuality and cross-dressing, right, as it was known, that was criminalized at the time. So the only places that queer people could go were mafia bars, basically, that had ties to the police. And these bars would basically allow the police to come in on a regular basis and have these raids. And at the raids, the police, you know, would rough people up, arrest people, and the people that they arrested and that they were beating up basically were largely trans women of color. Some of them identified as transvestites at the time, and you know, they were the people that were hurting the most. And one night, after many, many years of this happening, some of these women, you know, said, hey, why do you all watch us get arrested every night? Do something about it. And finally, the bricks started getting thrown. It started as pennies, actually. Pennies were thrown at the police, and it escalated over time. But I want to recognize a couple of these women who were extremely instrumental in the Stonewall riots: Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and Storme de Laverne. So these are the people that are responsible for Pride today as we know it, and I wanted to give them recognition. And I also want people to understand that while the Stonewall riots were important, they were not the beginning or the end of gay liberation. And if you're interested, you can research, but some of the most important events, an important event leading up to Pride was the Compton cafeteria riots that happened in San Francisco. It was also a response to state-sanctioned violence by the police. And following that, there were a lot of queer activists who were part of ACT UP, which was a group that was advocating for the United States government to start funding AIDS research and saving all the people who were dying of AIDS, which were primarily LGBTQIA+ people. So protest is a huge part of Pride, celebration is a huge part of Pride, and we are all here together to learn more about what Pride means to people and how we are still advocating for our queer allies, our people in our community. So we're going to hear from other people in the South Shore who are doing those things. So I'm just gonna, before we get to them and talk about these people, I'll just talk ground rules. I have this little video, so I'll play this quickly. Oh, no, I'm not.
Nope. Yep. Nope. Yep. Nope. Yep. Nope. Yep.
Yeah, that was me. I made a TikTok. So yeah, those are some of our rules. If you break these rules, I will be watching because this is a brave space. We are really supportive of the people in our community. We're respectful of their identities, whether they identify as a member of the LGBTQ community or not. And it is really important that everyone present is mindful of how sensitive and personal it can be to discuss your sexual orientation, your gender identity, your experience with these identities. And our panels are really brave and doing a huge thing by letting you all in and sharing these personal experiences. So with that in mind, if any of this has been eye-opening to you in a way where you realize this isn't for me, that's okay. I'll give you a couple seconds to leave, and I'll also let you know if you're uncomfortable with the talk being recorded, this is also a good time to exit. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds, give you all a couple of seconds. Okay, cool. That was a couple of seconds, and you're all still here. Very awesome. Yeah, so we're gonna start our panel. As you might have noticed, everyone is muted, and you can only chat with me, the host. That's on purpose because we want to try and eliminate any chances to disrupt the Zoom and disrupt our panelists. So if you have questions throughout the chat, at any time during the panel, send them to me, send your questions, whatever you'd like. I will make sure to get them to our hosts, Nikki and Sheena, our moderators. And just one last disclaimer, we're not professionals. We can only speak from experiences. So take that with a grain of salt. And if you have any other questions, you can always reach out. All right. Oh, and some other resources in terms, reaching out to us, you can get more of this information. But these are resources that are really awesome for queer people. The Trevor Project especially is great. Fenway Health in Boston is awesome. And now I'll let Nikki and Sheena take over, and you will not hear from me anymore. I'm sure that was a lot. So let's hear from other people. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks, Jackie. Okay, so we're going to get into our panel discussion. And we're going to start off by letting each panelist kind of introduce themselves and tell you about themselves. Tonight we have myself and Sheena as moderators, Maureen, Michael, and Dina. So I will go first. I'm Nikki. I identify as a lesbian. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Let's see, I came out around the age of 19. So I came out as queer around 19. I didn't really fully understand everything, but I knew that I was not straight. I came out kind of as, I guess a femme lesbian, probably in my about like 23 or 24. I kind of settled into what I felt like. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of an activist type, so I've marched just about everywhere for every reason, but in particular in support of the queer community. I'm married to Sheena. This is both of our second go round. We both were married before. We have 2 kids, Christopher and Ty, and Christopher's 12 and Ty's 4. I had them physically. So that means I went through the IVF process. I chose a donor. The second time around, I had embryos that were frozen. So that was a little bit easier. And we live in Scituate. And we've been here for about 5 years. And we love the beach. We found a community in Scituate Pride and the South Shore queer groups. And yeah, I love Pride. Pride was part of the reason I came out. I also, Pride was part of earlier, yeah, there's feedback, I don't know why.
I'm just gonna mute all the panelists so you don't have feedback.
Okay, thanks. Awesome. Okay, so I, when I first came out, spent a lot of time in Provincetown. I came out at Wellesley College, which was probably the most amazing place to come out as a lesbian ever. And I still have the same friends today as I did when I was at Wellesley College. I'm a lawyer. I went to BC Law. Yeah, And then we're going to learn more about me and the other panelists as we go along. So I'm going to hand it over to my wife, Sheila.
Hello, I'm Sheena Sanders Mead, Nikki's wife, Vice President of Scituate Pride as well. Like
Oh, I forgot I'm president.
she's the president,
I'm
of
president
course.
and she's vice
We
president.
fought over it first, but
No, we didn't.
I let her think she's the president. But, anyway,
It's very kind of you.
I look at it as co. Anyway, we're equals. We're equals. It's a title thing. So Pride started actually because I was seeding my front lawn and a slur was yelled out someone's truck window. And my wife got really pissed off and we called the police. We were nervous too because that person obviously knows where we live because we were living on Beaver Dam at the time in Scituate. The response with that was that a woman in the neighborhood named Jen, I always forget her last name.
Jen McGonigal Zeverick.
She's a teacher at the Inley School. She called Nikki and was like, this isn't acceptable, this isn't okay, because we had posted it on the Scituate monthly page, what happened, because we were just kind of upset, you know, because we've always had a good experience in Scituate until that happened. And the overwhelming support was great. Of course, there was a lot of hate too, but the fact that so many people responded against what happened and wanted to stand with us, it was amazing. So Jen and Nikki coordinated the first Pride Walk in Scituate that year. So that's how this all came about, because I was in my front yard trying to get some grass growing. I'm actually from Wareham Onset originally, but growing up on the water, when me and Nikki met, we wanted to get back to the ocean, when we wanted to keep raising our children and have Ty. I met Christopher when he was 5, so we already had him to think about and try to find a better community, a good school system and everything. And Scituate obviously has a lot of that to offer. Let's see, something, oh, I fish and I also teach fishing if anyone wants to learn, tackleboxfishingschool.com. I've had some students already. It's been really fun. I love the ocean and fishing at all 7 beaches in Scituate, and in more spots. I've branched out to Cohasset and Hull as well, so it's really an awesome area for what I like to do. Something I want to say about what we are doing to drag out the hate, the play on words, is really, for me, it's really calling it out and speaking on it. That's how you drag it out. That's how you have to acknowledge it. You know what I mean? And I think for me, as a personal growth journey, it was really started more with race than my own sexuality and sexual identity, to be honest. Having a wife and children who are Black really opened my eyes a lot as to what needs to happen to stand up for them and myself. And it includes standing up for myself as an LGBTQIA+ person as well. So it really helped me to mature and just become that activist that has always been in my heart, but just really learned how to articulate myself better and really be more quick on my feet to respond to people, to be assertive, and make change. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you. And I'll hand it off now to our next panelist.
Dina.
Uh,
Dina, you're muted.
yeah, everyone's muted, so Jackie will ask you to unmute before you speak. Just a heads up.
You're next.
There
I
you go.
didn't know I was next.
There you go. Popcorn style.
Dina, we're having some trouble hearing you. You're lagging.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Because I'm like,
Yeah, you're lagging a little.
Okay, Dina, we're gonna circle back. Can you refresh your screen? Like go out and come back in for us?
Yeah, Jackie will get you again.
Jackie,
Yeah.
will do again. Thanks,
have
Dina.
somebody else go and let
Yeah.
me.
Let's put Lauren in the hot seat.
No.
Yes,
Oh,
please.
she's not talking to me?
Michael,
She's gonna talk.
Michael,
Yes, I
you
will.
want to tell us about yourself?
Yep. Jackie, just ask me to unmute. We'll get in our flow.
Yeah, we'll get in the flow and it'll be.
You have to unmute first, Mike.
Sorry, I was still hearing stuff from Dina. I was like all confused. Michael, are you able to unmute?
Okay, there we go. Sorry about
There
that.
we go.
All right.
We'll get used to it, don't worry.
So my name is Michael Mastrangelo. I grew up in Hanover. I live in Quincy now. I'm 38 years old. I identify as non-binary and androvile, which is like somewhat of a new term for some people. The non-binary thing, I was trying to think like, how do you say like, if I'm non-binary, it's like I'm neither male or female. So like, how does that make sense to say like I'm gay or I'm not a gay or lesbian? So these sort of terms, androphile, and it just kind of takes away the gender from it, and it says that so an androphile would be attracted to males, and a gynophile would be attracted to females. So that's
plus.
yeah, exactly. So
Awesome, Mike.
it's actually kind of like a new thing that I've sort of figured out, even just trying to collect my thoughts for this straight talk here. So I'm actually learning as well. But I grew up in a really strict Christian home, Christian and conservative actually. And I actually grew up in the church. I went to school at a Baptist church. There was only 8 kids in my entire grade. It wasn't like a private school that you like send your kids to and like pay all this money so they have like a higher education. It was like a very sheltering sort of situation. And so that was just extremely difficult for me growing up in that. At a very young age, I think it was like only like probably like 5 or 6 at the time. Like that's when I started to really like question my my gender identity. I really felt that I was supposed to be a girl at the time, and I would see like I really felt way more comfortable around girls and women, and I always had like almost had like a fear of men in a way, and so that was just really difficult. I really like never articulated any of that at the time. Like I was, even at that young age, I was like super ashamed of it. So it was just a difficult thing to struggle with at the time. I'm trying to collect my thoughts here. Sorry. I'm a little nervous. I don't really like to do public speaking very much, but this was really important for me to, I felt like to put the story out there. But I was really depressive over this as I was younger. I really felt like there was something wrong with me. Being in that sheltered community, I never even heard that of a trans person or that it was even a thing. And I just felt like there was just something wrong with me the whole time, but anyway, so let me see.
Where do you live, Michael?
I live in Quincy. Yep. I've lived here for almost 15 years, well, a little more than 15 years actually. But also in the church, I wanted to talk about just like their view on sex in general, even like for heterosexual sex. Like it was just like, it's so crazy. Like one time they had us like watch this video, and it was like a girl saying that how she had premarital sex and how she felt like so empty and hollow inside after, and guilty, and like she would just never be the same. And so it's like it's already like giving people this sort of bad connotation like with sex and like in body image and like feeling guilty. And it's like I just felt like that whole religion was just based on fear and guilt. Touching on the fear part, even at the same age, probably starting really young, I was literally told in my school, like, imagine how bad a burn hurts on your finger, and just imagine that over your entire body, and it never ends for eternity. And it's like, that's what hell is like, and so it's just like, it's just all like, it's just such fear-based, and it's just like ingrained in you at a young age. And that just caused me to be this real anxious person growing up. I really sort of like deeply buried the whole gender identity issues that I was feeling for a long time. And then, once I was a little older, like in my teens, that was the first time I really started feeling any sort of attraction to anyone. But I started to realize like I'm attracted to males, and those thoughts would come into my head. And it was like, at the time I was still like so deep in the church that I just felt like you know, I was some sort of pervert or something. And, you know, if I had like thoughts of attraction towards a male, I would just like, I'd be like, no, 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 you know, like it was just like trying to shake it off and just like not give it any life at all. And just like really trying to like be straight basically, if that makes sense. So, so anyway, when I was in the 8th grade, that's like middle school, I actually ended up leaving that small church school. It actually got closed down for the 9th grade because there was only 2 kids that were going to be in the grade. So I ended up getting thrown into public school. And so I went from being around like 8 kids to like just jumping into like a public school with, you know, hundreds of kids, and it was just like the scariest thing. And being from that small community, I sort of was really picked out like right away for just being different. And you know, immediately people heard the feminine quality in my voice and the way I talk, and started, you know, telling me that like I was girly, and then I started really being bullied for being gay. And at the time, like I didn't even know that I talked feminine. Like I had to like record my voice, and then I was like, oh my God, I do sound kind of like a girl, you know? And so like I was just really terribly bullied like all for the rest of my high school career over it. Like, you know, I was like terrified to go to gym class and change in front of the boys. They'd be like, Master Angelo, don't look at me, or, you know, or I would literally be walking down the hall and people would whisper faggot in my ear and I wouldn't even know who it was, you know, and it was just terrible. And, you know, then I'd go home, and I actually didn't even feel like that was a safe place at the time either, because, you know, even though I was in the closet and not admitting any of this even to myself, it was like a weird situation at home where I felt like, you know, my brother and father had like this really good bond, but like I feel like my father like saw that I was feminine and like didn't like that, and I was just treated differently. And I was like bullied by my father and brother as well, you know, just like always like making jokes, making fun of me, like trying to make me feel stupid all the time. So it's just like I was just getting it like from everywhere. It was just like terrible bullying. Sorry, I have a lot of notes here. So that was, you know, it was a struggle all through high school. But then like coming into like my sophomore year, like the one male friend that I had, like I actually ended up like having a small circle of all girlfriends. That's just where I felt like really sort of fit in. And there was one male that I was friends with, and I think it was a junior year of high school. He actually came out to me as gay, and like just swore me to secrecy over it. And I kept his secret for about a year, and then my senior year, so the next year, I actually finally came out to him. I really sort of started to like accept some of the thoughts that I was having. I went to a guidance counselor at school who was really supportive, and that was like the first time I had ever had any support, or like someone telling me like, no, I'm not wrong, and this is actually, you know, really common and normal, and like a lot of people are like that and happy, and like you can live a happy life and all this stuff. And it just like, that was the first time I've ever really heard that, and it was like really empowering for me. And I really started to kind of like let some of those thoughts in a little bit more. So then by my senior year, I came out to my friend who had already come out to me, who was still, I think he had started to come out to other people at the time, but I like was not ready. Like I just wanted to tell like one safe person. And the very next day I went into school, and he had told like a bunch of people, and like people just came up like asking me about it. And that just like, it drove me right back into the closet basically. Like I like buried it again for like another, like almost a year. And so, I mean, that was just like really kind of threw me back, you know, and it was just kind of like a terrible, terrible time. And then the next thing that happened, I started to, you know, after that, I started to like, you know, start to research things online. And at the time, like I was going on, you know, the old internet, we had to like dial into AOL chat and everything. And there was a lot of supportive people online that you could look up, and that was really helping me just to chat with people and like hear other stories. And that's why I think like the straight thing is so great, like just to hear, you know, other people that have had similar experiences and that have overcome it, and just to see other like gay and happy people, that they do exist, you know.
Michael, we want to remind you of time, so
Yes.
we're
So-
all completely mesmerized, though.
Yeah.
Keep talking for the next
I
hour.
know, your sweet little face. I mean, we
I'll be
want to
really
hear forever, but we have to.
I'll be really quick at the end here, but you know, basically, like, you know, after that, once I really had accepted it, like I was outed by my mother too. Like, she like went through my phone, like found out that I was gay. Like, that was terrible. Like, she kind of said, this is like a dark day, but we can help you turn this around. And my father was like the elder of the Baptist church. He stepped down because he felt like he had raised a gay son. He actually kicked me out of the house at 19. He told me that, you know, I couldn't live there because it was a sin for him to support my lifestyle. And, you know, from there, I saved up money. I moved to Hawaii with Dina, who's on here as well. That was kind of like my out of the situation. I had like been like sleeping on people's couches and stuff. And I moved to Hawaii with Dina, and I started meeting gay people there, and I was really feeling good. I was like, but I also like still didn't feel like I fit in like with gay men in the gay community. Like, it was like another thing, and like I got really depressed over it. Like, I was like suicidal a lot of times during this whole thing. And that's, you know, once I realized that like I don't fit in with gay men either, that's when I started to like think about my gender identity issues again. You know, it took a lot of counseling and self-help and, you know, cognitive behavioral therapy and things like that to really sort of be confident in myself, and surrounding myself with like really positive people is really what sort of brought me out of it. Yeah.
That's an amazing story, and we already have questions coming in for you when we start the Q&A. Thank you so much for sharing, Michael.
Sure.
You did
Sure.
an amazing job.
And
Thank
your
you.
story totally speaks to the theme tonight, that you know, a lot of us in this community can reflect back and realize how long the hate has been going on in many different ways, and it's sad to know that a lot of it comes right from home, you know. So thank you so much for sharing. We're gonna go to Dina next, if we can get
Dina,
unmute.
we need to unmute you, Dina.
Dina has a couple of screens, so I unmuted Dina's non-video one. Nope, unmute Dina.
She has a video one too.
Got it.
All
right.
right.
I had to get on my phone so I could use data because my Wi-Fi decided to stop the second you guys said my name. It was
Oh,
working
no.
perfectly before that. You're like, Dina, time to talk. And I'm like,
Right,
okay.
frozen.
So I'm on my phone now. So yeah, I'm Dina. I grew up here in Scituate. Mike is my best friend. I did not prepare anything or write anything down, but I have done one of these panels before. I did a race talk last year, which was awesome. And like Nikki, I consider myself quite the activist. So I like to like stand up for any and all marginalized groups. So I did race talk first, and I did it with my mom actually, because she is an immigrant from Cape Verde and she also grew up in Scituate. So we kind of had like her generation and my generation together, and how things have changed in Scituate. And I'm also raising my 2 children in Scituate as well. So I identify as pan. When I was about 14 or 15, I came out as bi to my parents, and they did not like bat an eyelash at all. They were like, okay, what do you want for dinner? And that was that. And then I think about a year later, I told them that I thought that I was gay. And I remember my mom being like, you know, like we said before, that's fine, but I think that you should maybe give yourself time to like really consider it, you know, like you may not be, you know, before you thought you were bi, now you think you're gay. There's no timestamp, there's no rush. You can be whoever you want to be. So basically my parents were amazing. And it was around that time that I became really close friends with Mike, even though he and I were not from the same town. We had a mutual friend. And I feel like queer people just kind of like can find each other. So I'm not sure that he was even out yet, and I'm not sure I was either, but we found each other and we did the math, and we've been friends for over 20 years now. So that's amazing. And I saw what he went through with his family, and that was tough. But my family was obviously very accepting. So when he got kicked out, he had a safe space with us, that's for sure. And I definitely struggled with identity my whole life, starting with racial identity, because I am Cape Verdean, which in itself is a mixed race. Both of my mother and my biological father are full Cape Verdean from Cape Verde. But my dad, who raised me and adopted me legally at 3 years old, is white. And growing up in Scituate, I found it easier to rely heavily on being biracial, on having a white dad, because I saw the way that people of color, Metco kids, they were treated more harshly by their white counterparts. I saw racism. I saw, people get discriminated against, and I thought that it would be easier for me if I leaned on the fact that I was biracial. I leaned on the fact that my dad was white and I was mixed. So that's where my kind of identity struggle began. Then I knew that I wasn't straight, but I didn't really know what that meant or what that looked like to the world. I always knew that I wanted to be a mom. I always knew that I wanted to get married. So what did that look like? So I struggled with that. I also wanted to get out of Dodge really badly. I graduated high school at 17 and a half. I did not walk at graduation. I quit my job at Shaw's in Cohasset after 3 weeks, and I was like, see you later, I'm going to Hawaii. And Mike and I moved to Hawaii together. I think it was Mike's first flight as well. And they screwed up our tickets, so we got upgraded to first class, and we pretended that we were engaged, and we got champagne. Just so fun. So when we moved out there, it was like a whole new world for both of us. Like in Hawaii, my children, by the way, are Native Hawaiian. So they're like half Cape Verdean, half Native Hawaiian. So I've learned not only from being in Hawaii, but Hawaiian culture, they have what's called third gender, or mahu. So they really revere and respect anyone who doesn't fit in a binary. So it was like, not only did the culture embrace it, but it was just like so much freedom and gay flags everywhere. And we were going into gay bars, and I was like, now these are my people, And I think that it also, I know I'm jumping all around here because this is what happens when you don't write things down. But I think it's also important to mention that I am married, and I do have a husband, and he is a cisgendered straight male. And I know what you're thinking. Every time I say that, I feel like
we're thinking, what's cisgendered and what's pansexual?
Good questions. So my husband is cisgender, meaning he was born a male and he identifies as a male. He's heterosexual, meaning that he only dates members of the opposite sex. I am a pansexual, which I didn't come out as until very much recently. Because like Jackie said, this is like ever expanding, we're learning about ourselves, we're learning about other identities. And so I wasn't wrong when I came out as bi, but I think more specifically, I like the title of being pan because it's not as binary as bisexual seems to me. Bisexual, it doesn't have to be, but it seems like it's more like you like men and women. I am more physically attracted to men, but I'm also very attracted to masculine lesbians. I'm very attracted to trans men. They're actually my preference. And I think that just comes from, feeling marginalized a lot in my life. And I think that a lot of cis hetero people don't know what it's like to feel like that. But a trans man, having walked this earth as a woman, having gone through, a transformation and feeling like a queer person, they get it, But luckily, my partner also gets it. So I really feel like I truly landed with the love of my life. We are raising 2 children together very happily here in Scituate, and I am so happy to be a part of Scituate Pride and a lot of other groups that I'm in Scituate that, really fight for, all of us, equality for all. And that's what
Thank
I'm
you,
about.
Dina.
So
Amazing.
it.
Thank you. We have lots of questions for you later.
great.
Okay, Maureen, would you like to share with us? We're going to unmute you so you can be part of the conversation.
Yes, I'm gonna unmute Maureen or Mo on the Zoom, asking you to unmute. And Mo, I'll hold up my finger like this when you have 1 minute.
Oh, okay. I don't know if it'll last that long, but we'll see.
It seems like it doesn't seem
Opposite of you, I wrote stuff down. I probably won't even look at it at all. So I'm Maureen. I live in Weymouth, but I grew up in Plymouth. I consider myself bisexual. I've had relationships with both men and women. Earlier in my life, it was mainly just with men because I'm 50 something years old, and back then it wasn't accepted, to be with a woman. So, I always had crushes on both men and women. Even in school, I had a woman teacher I was attracted to, and a male teacher. And, as I got older, it got a little confusing. I understood them, being with a man, but then my crushes on women kind of confused me because to me, it was like, how can you be attracted to both? But, as of now, I've been with a woman mostly. I was married to a man for 8 years, and that ended, obviously. And then after that, I was with a woman for about 17 years, and she was closeted. Imagine that we were together but never lived together, and she never would say that what she was. So I was kind of like in a little bit of a hell because I was ready to come out. And so that ended in a really bad breakup. And I just, one of the things I had written down about being, bisexual is that when I broke up with my husband, the world ended. Everyone was all over that. And, so sorry, getting cards, getting everything, come stay with us, do this. And then I'm with someone for 17 years, that a woman who cheated on me. And it was like, well, whatever. Because it just didn't, they didn't value, a relationship with a woman the same it was with a man, especially where she was closeted. I just, my friends kind of, knew, but I did grow up in a Catholic family, and it was men, you were supposed to be with a man. And, I went to college, and it was the first time I had been with a woman. And of course it was very confusing, but, during our vacations, and she would write me letters like once a day. And then my mother started to be like, why is this woman writing you letters all the time? And then why is she coming down to visit? And they were, I don't care what you do in college, but when you're in my house, you're not, whatever. So I knew it was wrong. So I geared towards the right way of, meeting a man, and, I was with him for a while, and then, getting married. And the ironic thing, it's funny and it's not, but at our wedding, I was attracted to the woman photographer. So I knew there was something just not right, but, so after that, and my girlfriend is next to me holding my dog laughing. So anyway, but then after that is when I, started to be with the
Oh, no, you froze. No. Oh, Mo, you froze. If you can hear us, refresh yourself. Go out and come back in.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can hear us, or maybe Jackie can send a message.
I'll send it. Oh, Mo,
no, you're back.
Hey, see?
Okay.
Hey, there you are.
You don't want to go
I came
back
out twice, right? Yeah. I'm not going back in no closet. So I have things written down, but obviously it's a blur right now.
That's okay. You're doing great.
But
we're gonna give you another minute, and then we're gonna ask you a bunch of questions, and you'll probably use your notes to answer.
Oh yeah. Let's see. One of honestly, the first time I officially myself came out to my mother was last week. She knew, but it was the first time oh, thank you. It was the first time I actually said the words, you know, I'm with her. And she's afraid to be, come on, just poke your head in and say hi. Hi.
Hi. Hello.
So now I've been mostly with women, and I can honestly say I probably, well, I have to say I'm not going to go back to a man. Yeah, she's
Very
like,
smart,
I hope not.
Mo. You're very smart.
Yeah, and not that I don't like men, because that's another thing. People think if you're lesbian, you don't like men. Of course I like men. I just don't want to be with, right now I don't want to, So, yeah, that's my story. I have a lot of other things, and
Yeah, we're gonna get to all
yeah.
this. I'm sure we have a lot of questions for you.
Yeah,
I'm
sure you do.
Yes.
Hi.
No, don't go anywhere.
I'm kidding.
All right.
I
So
just want to
we're
remind
gonna-
everybody, please send your questions in the chat. Send them to me. I'd love to hear from you.
Yes, definitely send all your questions to Jackie, and she'll send them to us. So Mo, we'll just kind of segue with you.
Yeah.
I also dated men before coming around to the fact that I was a lesbian. And then there were like 2 coming outs, right? So there's a first coming out. I like, I'm queer. I like the opposite sex, or I like something that makes me queer. And then there's kind of like the second coming out, or like, what kind of a queer person am I? And I feel like the second one just keeps coming and coming, like Dina said. She was very eloquent about the fact that these things move and shift and change as you get older. You become more comfortable with things that turn you on and you're able to talk about them more openly. Well, because you're probably able to talk about sex, hopefully more openly. And so in those conversations, you discover things about yourself. So I wanted to open with something that I think could be a little fun for the panel. And everyone can have about a minute to respond, and then we'll go into some of the questions that we're getting here. What are some of your pet peeves as a queer person? And we'll start with Dina, who has her hand up.
All right.
Shoot me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I needed to get unmuted. So I think that my biggest one is whether identified as bisexual or now as pan, one of the #1 comments is, oh, so you just like everybody. Oh, you're just into like everyone. Excuse me, no. No, not, who said that? Who told you that? That is incorrect. So being pan means that like I am open to non-binary people, that I'm open to trans people, I'm open to, I'm open to that. That doesn't mean I like them all. That doesn't mean I like every single person. I'm not walking down the street like, ooh, I've never
Gina, it's so funny. It's so funny because as a lesbian, it's like, we don't just like any woman, right? We don't. So, if we're nice to you, it's not necessarily because we like you.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
Sure doesn't.
It doesn't. And we don't necessarily, your preferences, I guess, develop as you age. But yeah, I could never date another femme lesbian. It just wouldn't make sense to me. But that's just me, And so I think a lot of times when you're like, oh, I don't know, things that I talk about with my straight female friends, it's like, yeah, I'm talking about this with you because I like to talk about these things. It's not because I want to date you or I'm married, so you're married. I mean, right?
It's true.
So and you miss out on, sometimes you miss out on relationships because you're like, okay, this is really odd because now I have to tell you I'm not attracted to you. But relax yourself. Yeah, well, relax yourself. So I'm not saying you're unattractive. I'm just saying you're not attracted to me. It gets very weird
It
But
really
no,
does.
lesbians and pan people don't just like everybody. I don't like every lesbian. Well, I like lesbians, but I'm not necessarily attracted to every lesbian.
You know,
Every
Exactly.
woman.
that's,
Every woman.
Exactly.
that's a pet peeve of mine. Me and my best friend were just actually talking about this the other night, and it's so true. So we're so close. She's my sister, you know, like I want to die with her next to me if she's still here. I have a tattoo. I'm her son's godmother. I saw him come out and helped her deliver, which was amazing. I couldn't even see my own daughter come out, which was rough.
Yeah, I had complications.
Yeah, so we have a bond that's just believable. We're sisters,
She
and
also has a tattoo for me. So
yeah,
it's not
and my
like-
children. So my godson and,
Just so you know.
and my best friend are on my back, and you know, she was saying how every person she dates asks if we've messed around or been together. Even people in her own family have been like, oh, have you after? Well, you know, it's like, wow. And she can't stand it. She's like, and I was like, girl, I can't believe how much you've had to stick up for me that I didn't even realize, you know? And she's like, I mean, it's all good, but like, it sucks. And I don't like how that people like over sexualize you because you're gay, and they think that we've had to mess around just because we're best friends. And one person who said, did you, F her? She was like, I don't know. Did you F your best friend up the butt? Like, she was very blunt, and he shut up after that, and I was like, good for you. It's like, that's just not how it is. And she kind of came to that realization from getting all the stuff, and it's awful, but like every guy she dates, we have to go over are you cool with gay people? Because my best friend's gay and she's not going anywhere, and she's auntie to my kids. Like, so it's always like a thing that we have to make sure. It's almost like a requirement of the checklist when you're assessing who they're dating, And she just got a tattoo for me on her leg, and she's like, yeah, and she's on my thigh. How do you like that? A beautiful Leo tattoo, because I'm a Leo, like a lioness. So it's really awesome. So I don't know. That's one of my pet peeves, is that just because you're best friends with a gay person doesn't mean that you've been together and mess around. Like, we're sisters. That's what it is.
Michael or Mo, you want to chime in? Mo, you need to unmute yourself. Jackie, can you help her with that? Michael, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, sure.
Am I?
I think
You're unmuted.
oh,
Go ahead, Michael. You're all set.
okay. I have a couple of pet peeves, I think. Like one of them is going back to the religion thing. It's like, Christians who use religion to like as like a tool for like hate, basically. You know what I mean? And it's just like, that's not what religion is. Like they're saying that how much that like it's God is love and blah blah and like all this stuff about a love and everything, but it's like it's so like narrow. It's like a narrow box that people fit in that that's acceptable, I guess.
I totally get that, Michael. And when you mentioned kind of your very conservative religious background, I had my mom's from North Carolina, my dad's from Alabama. Okay, so that's the Bible Belt. And so I spent a lot of time in church in very uncomfortable shoes. And my mom was fantastic. She was like, when I came out, she was like, well, are you still going to law school? Because if you are, that's what I'm more concerned about. But the church in general, particularly the Black church, which is such a cornerstone of people's lives in the Black community, in the Catholic community. And you do feel, and not every church, not every pastor, not every priest, but you do feel that you've devoted, this is who you are as a person, and this is your belief, but you've devoted yourself to this belief and to their church or whatever, and they've turned their back on you. It does feel like that. It definitely feels like that. That really resonated with me.
That's one good thing about being in Scituate. We have a lot of the churches here flying our rainbow flags and our progressive flags, and they've donated to Pride. They're making it very clear where they stand on things and that they want to support us. And based on your beliefs, you do have a home, depending. We had our daughter baptized at the First Trinitarian Church because of that. We were welcome there and felt that we could do that. So they are out there, and I know that like the Unitarian churches were kind of a big first, really, right? I mean, kind of accepting of our community. So yeah, that the religion thing is a whole set of hate that we need to drag out. And one of the pastor at the First Trinitarian, I think it was, I'm really bad with names lately apparently, but he said you have to speak on it. You have to address it right away, get it out of the way, and let people know where you stand and that they're welcome, and they're welcome here. So, back to our theme of drag out the hate, that was, that really resonated with me. And I thought that was great. And I'm actually Wiccan, I'm not even Christian, but of course support my wife and, my daughter, raising her basically half and half. So yeah.
You had other things on your list, Michael.
Another thing
How did you write out of your list?
add to that as well is I don't know if anyone's heard of this movie. It's called 1946. It just came out in March this year, and it's basically saying that like the word homosexuality wasn't translated into the Bible until 1946. It wasn't actually, and it was a wrong translation. That's not actually what it meant. Like they put it in there like at that time, is basically, to like control people or whatever the motive was, and it's like I've never had a problem with organized religion. I'm actually a really spiritual person. I do a little Wiccan stuff myself. Like I'm into witchcraft, and I do a little bit of and I do a little bit of in it, but it's it's all like about like energies and positive things. Like people think about witchcraft and they think it's like of course anyone from my family would immediately say it's demonic or something, you know what I mean? But it's not always the case. And I do a lot of Buddhist meditation and chanting and meditation for mindfulness. So I've always been a very spiritual person, but I actually threw that whole spiritual side of myself away for the longest time after that experience with the church. And it wasn't until like recently, like in my 30s, that I started to really be able to be in touch with my spiritual side again. And that really was a huge thing for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael, for sharing. Mo, do you want to share some of your pet peeves?
Yeah, it was funny because Sheena said pretty much what I said, and I was discussing this with my girlfriend that just because you're gay or lesbian or whatever, if I'm friendly with a female person, like even if she's a friend, they think that you like them. It drives me nuts because it's like, just because I'm attracted to women doesn't mean I want to be with every woman I'm with, or are friends with. So yeah, that's a pet peeve. And then there was another one. When you tell someone, by the way, I'm a lesbian or I'm gay or whatever, and they said, oh, that's okay. I'm okay with it. And it's like, well, I wasn't asking for your approval. I was just telling you, it's like, I'm all right with it. It's like, oh, I'm glad, So it's like,
Good for you.
although my mother is the one person she can say that, because your father and I were okay with it. We knew, but, as long as your father says, as long as it's not flaunted in his face. And I'd be like, wait,
How do you
wait till
flaunt lesbianism? I mean, I don't know how that works. Like,
wait till I tell him I might get married.
yeah, I know. It's like, don't flatter yourself, like Sheena said. It's like, no one's really thinking about you like that. For me, if you say you're straight, that's, I don't know. Anyway. All right, so we have questions here and comments we need to get into. Let's see. I think we went, this is the computer, like, Michael, okay, no.
I do have to say, in college, I did tell a girl, that woman that I knew, I was like, listen, don't flatter yourself. I'm not into you. Like, who do you think you are? You're not even cute, It's like, like you want to be a jerk, I'll be a jerk.
I saw a TikTok that I thought was so funny, and it was this gay guy, and he was talking about when straight men think that he's hitting on them, and he's like, "Look at my outfit: shirt, tailored, pants, Ralph Lauren." He's like, "You wear flannel unironically, and you think I'm attracted to you? Like, give me a break."
I know. It's rough.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, and another thing, if you're a lesbian, guys think that automatically means a three-way.
right.
Oh,
What?
good one.
No, it does
Well,
not.
there's something called a unicorn where people think that, you know, I guess.
But that's why
you
they
wanna be
call it a
third.
unicorn, Nikki. That person doesn't exist. No
Oh,
girl
okay.
can just jump in with you and be like, "Oh, sure, I'll hook up with you and your boyfriend, no strings attached." That's why they call it a unicorn. That's
Right.
not a real
It's-
thing.
No. Well, it could be. There's been some celebrations I've been to where I thought maybe there were a few people that might be interested in it. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean we're all unicorns. Whatever that means. It definitely does not
What
mean
does
that.
it mean, first of all?
Well, yeah. Well, I'm trying to establish that. But basically, I think it means that you're willing to sleep with a straight couple.
Yeah.
So it's like we're not trying to hunt down straight couples and sleep with them.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not what the gay community is focused on.
And
Particularly if we're married.
I just want to add, if you're interested in learning more about that term and more about bi people, Robin Oakes, who is a bi activist, is going to come and talk about things that are exactly that. Because
Yeah.
it's super weird. It's my entire experience. Yeah.
So we have a comment here or a question, and this comes from a gay man. For androphilic, how is that different than a gay man? This is from Michael.
So androphilic, you can be you could be a man or a woman, or you could be non-binary. So it's just taking the gender out of it. So for me, I identify as non-binary. So like I don't want to have to say like, oh, my feminine side is straight, but then my male side is gay. I mean, it's just like doesn't really seem right to me. I never really, like I said before, like I never really felt like I fit in with the gay community, with the gay male community. And so that's just a way of like taking the gender out of it and saying like I'm attracted to males, if that makes sense.
Does make sense. Okay.
So I'll pose a question to the group while we look through the audience questions. So we have talked about hate a lot with this theme, which is great. Where have you experienced hate on the South Shore, particularly since we're all South Shore people? And what have you done to potentially, fight against that? Anyone want to jump in on that?
Well, for me, that's outside of my 9 to 5 and raising my children. That's all I focus my energy on, is quite literally dragging out the hate in this town. So whether it's against minorities, people of color, immigrants, people in the LGBTQIA. So yeah, I mean, I've experienced it. I mean, honestly, I think I have it easier than a lot of people in the queer community because I am in a straight passing relationship. I'm in like a cis hetero type of relationship. So when I walk down the street with my 6'4" bearded husband, nobody's throwing rocks at me, no matter how gay my clothing is. But I definitely felt like when I was younger, being a tomboy and having mostly guy friends, it was like I was either accused of being a lesbian or adversely accused of being a slut, which I thought was very interesting because I only hung around with guys. I would literally most of my close friends were guys. And even to this day, I love wearing my husband's clothes. I do not shop strictly in like a female, like I wouldn't have half my clothes if I only got them from the women's section. It's just, I find that very like fluid and what I find comfortable. But yeah, so I think that in a way, being straight passing has kind of helped me not get like hate crimed or targeted. Obviously I'm a Black woman, so I do experience hate in other ways, but because I'm straight passing, that's why I am part of Scituate Pride. That's why I feel like I can stand up for those. It's like with my children, like when somebody says that, oh, my daughter who's blonde is white passing, even though I hate that term, but she will be the first one to stand up to somebody for doing something racist, because they may say something like that in front of her, not realizing that she's like half Black and indigenous as well. So I guess that's like, I'm like a secret agent. You know, people might not look at me if I'm not wearing this shirt and think that I'm gay. And if I hear something or see something, I stand up to that. I speak out against that.
I can identify to that because I can't say I was necessarily straight passing, hopefully not, but my hair was down to my, my lower back most of my life. And I experienced definitely more hatred outwardly to me, dressed, having short hair and looking like a stereotypical butch lesbian, for sure. I mean, I even went to the town hall and had an issue and had to talk to HR and the admins and deal with that. And I think for a while I stopped going to CES down at the harbor because I got in a fight with the manager. I walked
The Irish girls.
I walked in with my mother-in-law got us I Can't Breathe shirts when George Floyd was murdered, and I had that on with my tats out. With I think I had my mohawk. So anytime that I'm in my tank top with my tats out with the stereotypical type stuff that people want to hate on, it comes my way. It definitely does. And I even said at the town hall, I said, what if I walked in here with a polo shirt and khakis, would we have this problem? So I try not to get too aggressive, but I definitely speak up and speak out. And that's my obviously personal thing, to try to drag out the hate. But yeah, it's definitely in this town for sure. And I do love, obviously we're all trying to do something about it, and it's not perfect. There's so many people on our side and fighting the good fight. But yeah, it's definitely prevalent here in this town.
Well, I want to add too that there's hate within the gay community, the queer community.
There is, yeah, that's true.
All right, we don't want to. People are queer, but that doesn't necessarily change their political stance. They could. They're still. People think all queer people are Democrats or leftists. It's not true. People think all queer people are accepting of all cultures and religions. That's not true.
That was going to be my next pet peeve, actually. It was just like,
Yeah.
just like within our own community, like the judgments and the, and things like that. It's like, I've had a couple of experiences just with that, hearing a lot of, hanging out with gay guys, like hearing them say like, oh, do you think that trans people are part of our community? I don't think that's our community. Like if they don't like, then they're saying it like they don't like it, and one of my first boyfriend was Black, and we even got stuff like for that at the gay clubs, like at the time, like so some guy came up to him and looked at both of us and he said like, there's not enough of us. It's kind of saying like there's not enough like gay Black guys, and like how are you with this white guy? It's like a waste or something, so like it's just a lot of that happens like within our own community too, and I just think that's true. That's like one of my huge pet peeves as well.
I had an issue. I almost flipped out at Club Cafe. I love it there, but the bartender wouldn't freaking serve me because I'm not a dude. It was like dudes night, he was trying to go home with someone or something, but he wouldn't come near me. I'm like, look, I need a drink too,
I don't know, does that count? I mean,
Yeah.
Club Cafe.
I hate it on because I'm a woman, And I've also heard a lot of the, hating on bi people where it's like, oh, you can't pick one. It's like, wow, really? That's a big one.
We have Mo, do you want to chime in? We actually have a question from Mo and Dina, but I wanted you to chime in on the hate part, Mo, if you don't mind.
Oh, the hate. Yeah. Well, I've only really experienced one incident, like an actual incident. And I remember I was dating a woman and we were out at a restaurant and we were sitting next to each other at the bar, but we weren't doing anything. She might've had her arm around me or something like that. And the guy across the bar throws, it was a Chinese food place, throws the fortune cookies at us and says, we don't need that in here. And it was like, I'm not doing anything, and so the person I was with said something when he left. She went out and said something to him, but So yeah, that's the only thing I can think of right now where it was an actual. Sorry about my dog. She won't leave me alone.
No, it's perfect.
So
Yeah.
we have a
So
question. Oh, sorry, we
and
have a
then
question
yeah,
for
then
you.
what's that?
Oh, go ahead,
Did someone-
Mom. Sorry, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
Oh no, that's okay. Yeah, that's pretty much the only time I've actually really seen that. And you know, another thing, the hate, the things we've already talked about, where you know, people think you hate men, or you know, I want to comment on the thing Sheena you said, where people ask, well, can't you decide? And they're like, that bisexual thing is, you know, bull crap. But it's also might be a confusing thing. But I mean, I can walk down the street and see a man run by with a nice body and be attracted to him. And then the same thing with a woman. But I'd probably, you know, now if I would probably say that I would definitely rather be with a woman sexually than a man. So, but that's, you know, and I think we already talked about the other things where, you know, people think that if you're gay and you have a friend, they think you're after them. And I've experienced that recently, actually. And I'm actually going away with a friend of mine that's a woman, and she's like, oh, is Jules going to be pissed off if you go away with me for a night? And I'm like, why? It's like, isn't she going to be jealous? I'm like, of what? I'm not with you. So we're just friends, you know? So that kind of thing, you know, people just don't understand, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is, you want me to read this comment?
Yeah.
So we have, it says, not a question, a comment. I still have trouble articulating how moving it is to see happy queer adults living their best lives. There were many times where I and many others probably couldn't picture making it that far. And it's really moments like these that give my heart hope. That's awesome.
That makes me emotional. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
That's why I really wanted to share this, because like I just feel like if I was to be able to watch this, you know, when I was going through all this, it would be like give me hope, you know, like you can go get through this and you can live a happy life and do everything that you want and still be who you are.
It is true. It's amazing. And, you know, these talks even helped. We've been approached by the school to use everyone who's, you know, been brave enough to chat with us. And it's been really, really helpful. So you don't realize how many people you really affect just by telling your own truth, you know. This question, people say that the same thing about gay men not liking women. I love women. I just don't want to sleep with them. That's true.
That's from Richard, who's also on our board.
Hey, Richard.
Why did I know
Identify
that was
questions, but he did put his name in.
Okay, so this is a really great one, and we probably have to wrap because it's coming up on 8:30. What favorite Pride memory of Pride celebrations or a moment when you were especially proud of yourself? So either Pride celebration when you're proud of yourself, or Pride celebration or when you're proud of yourself. Let's see, let's start with Mo.
Hey. Well, I have to say I'm very proud that I told my mother specifically, and I also
Way to go, Mo. Good for
yeah.
It's a big thing to tell a parent, right?
Yeah,
Because that's when you're really telling yourself, like, I'm okay.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, it's a very big thing to tell your parents.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. And she was like, yeah, we know. So, and then, you know, just walking down the street, I don't even think twice holding her hand anymore. Like Jules's hand. I mean, not my mother's. Although if she had her way, she would hold my hand every day.
Yeah, that's how mothers are. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm proud. I, you know, definitely have, you know, come out, even though I came out, but I'm now out fully and I don't care what anyone thinks really anymore.
Yes, Mo. Yes, honey. Yes, good for you. Congratulations. I know the feeling of that leads up to having that conversation with a parent or a very close relative that you know loves you so very much, and you don't want that to change. You don't want them to be disappointed in you. You don't want them to be upset about it in any way because of all the love they've given you and you want that love to continue. It's a very scary thing, and I'm so proud of you for doing it. And thank you for sharing with us. That's so, it's a monumental time when you come out to sisters and brothers and uncles and mothers and fathers. It's a very big time for our community, and sometimes we choose death. We'd rather commit suicide than have that conversation with a family member. And that's just how it is. So congratulations. Welcome to the fold, girl. Michael, do you wanna, oh, Dina, you wanna go next?
No, Mike, do you want to go?
Okay, yeah, I'll go. I think something I'm proud of is just, you know, where I'm at now. Like, you know, like all that time, like the story that I told you about was just like such turmoil, and like I just never like saw it coming to an end. And that's a lot of reasons why like at times I felt suicidal, even, you know. And now I just feel like I've really turned myself around, and I'm really just confident and proud of who I am. You know, but yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
You're amazing, Michael. You really are. And I'm proud of you too. Happy Pride, man. Happy Pride.
I knew
Dina,
I knew I
let's
should
go.
have let him go first, because that was going to be my answer too. But more specifically, my proudest moment might be right now. And I don't want to cry, but
Cry, girl, cry.
no,
It's all right.
Like,
We got you.
being here doing this and being part of this community and doing this panel with like literally my best friend of 20 years. He only told me last year that he ever got to the point where he felt like he wanted to die. And I didn't even know that. So for us both to be here, for us to both be like telling our stories and sharing, and like we're both doing this for the same reason, so that like when we were young and we were having a hard time, if we had a community of people like this, you know, making sure that there are pride flags and representation, and that kids know that they're safe, like they say, to be the person that you needed when you were young. And the fact that I get to do that, and that I get to do it with my best friend, is like, this is the best.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. You two are so cute. Oh my God.
You know, and I'm going to put a plug in, because one of our goals for our Pride, Scituate Pride, is to eventually have a house for our community, gay youth, because of, you know, so many people that do get kicked out of their homes and don't have anywhere to go. And especially, actually, we have an audience member who's DCF, Janaea Johnson. I hope you don't mind I mention your name. But she's actually told us how much of a need there is with kids aging out of the system and not having a place to go, and how kids in our community are getting put with families that don't necessarily understand them or are as sensitive as they should be to them, because there just isn't enough people fostering. So that's another way to give back. So for our, you know, that's something that's very dear to my heart, and one of the larger goals of more expensive things, especially in Scituate. But we want to have that. I'd love it if we had 20 houses, but to start with one at least.
Yeah. That's why we fundraise, besides the Pride event and some of the speakers we have and things. That's why we fundraise. That's what we hope to be able to provide.
We don't want anyone, you know.
Yeah, we don't want kids on the
life.
street or, you know, committing suicide. I mean, it's not fair.
And I do want to say I'm proud of all of us. But as far as our group in Scituate, and I'm happy to meet everyone from the other towns. It's been awesome. But I'm so proud. Everyone's been so great at pitching in. This is our first Pride Month celebration, and everyone just does whatever they can with what time they have. And it's been amazing. So I'm proud of that. Me personally, I'm proud of just living my truth as a butch lesbian and looking like one stereotypically. I never gave a shit what anyone really thought. I mean, it got me into a lot of bullying and trouble that way, because everyone wanted to just get your attention apparently. But when I came out, I was like, as long as I know, I don't give a shit who cares. I'm sorry, my language. I don't care who knows, you know? And I was fine with my parents knowing. I didn't care. And my dad actually asked me if I was gay once, and I said no. And I said, I only didn't tell you at that moment because I wasn't sure yet. I hadn't dated a woman. Like, I don't know. So,
And it's for you to tell.
yeah.
Like, no one should rush you into telling. Like Michael, someone said something at school, and the next day no one should do that to anyone.
I know.
You know, it's for them to tell their story, and that's what you did here tonight. So I'll say a quick story about Sheena when we got together. So she had, like she said, she had really long hair, right? But I was getting a different feel from her than the hair represented in my head. So it's like, oh, she's really cute. We're having so much fun, but I kind of want to know if this could, work. And so I asked her a couple of questions, and I said, okay, I'm going to say some words to you, and you're going to tell me what you think. So I said, lipstick. She was like, oh, I love when women wear lipstick. It's so sexy. I was like, high heels. And she was like, ooh, a heel on a woman plus a skirt? Yes. And then I said a few other things. Oh, no, I said highlights. And she was like, I mean, I prefer highlights. I don't really care if it's a weave, So then I was like, I want you to ask me the exact same thing. So go ahead, babe. So, kitten, pump, stiletto, or 5-inch?
I now know what that means, but at the time I was like, what were you talking about?
Okay, one more lipstick.
Lipstick.
Matte, gloss, semi-gloss, or hot, or 24-hour. Like, so our answers were so different, and thank God they matched, because here we are today. I would say one of the awesome things about, I know it was a very funny moment. And it doesn't necessarily, that's not all the time. Like, yeah, everyone's many colors in their relationship, but it was just a funny way to see if we would work. But anyway, so I had a wonderful, wonderful time at Pride when I was just, past my divorce and whatever. And it was a room full of lesbians of color at Women of Color Weekend in Provincetown. And it was every shade of brown, yellow, whatever of color. And it was fantastic. And there was this big party on the water, and everyone was dancing and chatting. And those moments are few and far between for gay people of color. It's not that we want to be separate all the time. That's not the way it is. But I do think when we see others that look like us or have similar experiences as us, it makes sense. What I didn't know is that Sheena went to the same Women of Color Weekend the year before, and she's actually dated more women of color than I have. So, so that was probably one of the proudest moments that I had. This has been amazing. Once again, I mean, this is what straight talk and race talk and the talks are about. They're not about straight people. They're about queer people and their relationship to their environments, to their homes, to their towns, to their families. And the hope is that someone will hear this. Someone will say, I'm going to put the gun down and not go through with the suicide. Someone will say, I'm going to reach out to one of the resources that we put on this video. This is recorded. And someone will say, you know what, I'm going to ask my son, daughter, cousin, what have you, if they need support, or what can I do? Or can I go to Pride with you this year, or whatever. It means so very, very much. So we do need to close, but I will say, please, please, please support our transgender and gender non-conforming people. They are under direct attack regularly, particularly those of color. So please, please, please support them. We do have to close. Jackie, do you have a slide for me?
I think no. I just.
All right, that's fine. So I do want to remind.
I was just gonna say, I put links to all of the organizations who were involved tonight in the chat. There's other resources in the chat. If this is an organization that's meaningful to you, please donate. I hate to always be asking for money, but that is like the most powerful thing that you can do so that we can redistribute wealth to queer people and get the word out about our community. We have merchandise.
Not just Scituate.
Yes, sorry, yes. And we have merchandise. We have events coming up soon. Actually, maybe I'll just share the events that are coming up soon so you all can see that one more time.
Saturday is the open mic / poetry night.
Saturday.
It was gonna be Friday. That's why I said it. Thank you
Yes,
for correcting me.
So yeah,
Saturday.
Saturday, June 12th.
Saturday, June 12th is our open mic at 6:30 at the high school. Kinky Boots is our drive-up movie. You need to buy a ticket for that, so visit our website for more information. That's next Friday. The Robin Oaks Talk is on June 22nd. You also need to purchase the tickets for that. If that's a problem for anyone, obviously always contact us about ticket sales. And our Pride Walk is at the end of June on the 26th. It's a Saturday. And if you want to help us make signs for the walk, that's on this right on the right side here.
I have like 100 pieces of poster board and lots of colored Sharpies. So come on down. Yeah, you can make your own sign. It's not just for like us or anything. It's just come and make a sign if you want to.
But yeah, thank you. These are some of our sponsors. We love you all.